So that's a thing. Well, hello there, and welcome to my February Rewind, which is a look back at what I read in February with a thumbs up or thumbs down rating, and a quick explanation of why. This will also be known as the Rewind of the Month, where I just threw everything out the window. I don't know what happened to my brain in February, I just didn't want to do anything that I was supposed to do, and I've read a lot of junk and weirdness, and I don't quite know what happened, but here it is. I kicked off the month with one that I told you I was going to read in the January Rewind because I started it at the end of January and there was no stopping me. No matter how big my TBR pile is and how many things I have going on, it was going to happen. And it did. In the Age of Love and Chocolate by Gabrielle Zevin, which is the final book in the Birthright series, and oh man, I love this series. Just, like, hits me. Love this series. I love Anya, I love the way the series has evolved and the way Anya has evolved as a character. There are those characters that you sometimes just connect to, and Anya is one of them for me. I love the writing, I love everything about it, honestly. I need to review this one for you guys, but I can't seem to put it all in words. Other than just, you need to pick these up if you haven't. If you tend to like the same things I like, if you tend to like the characters that I like, give the Birthright series a try. It's really just awesome, and I love it. And I love Gabrielle Zevin for writing it. And I love Macmillan for publishing it, and Ksenia for sending it, and just everything. I love all the things. But it was from there that things started to go downhill, and I didn't want to read what I was supposed to read. I don't know, I had this craving for rereads, I guess. And I started thinking about The Hollow Kingdom by Claire B. Dunkel, which I read years ago, probably 6 years or so ago, and liked. I thought it started off really strong, but then I remember thinking that it kind of went downhill for me in the end, and I was kind of angry at the book, I guess. I don't really know what it was. I don't know what it was that bothered me, because the characters have stuck with me for a really long time, and the story has stuck with me for a really long time, and books that disappoint me, unless they disappoint me severely, or books that I find just kind of middle of the road, I don't tend to remember, and this I did remember, and I even remembered it fondly, even though I remember being irritated with it. So I thought, okay, if it's stuck with me for this long, I need to reread it. So I got on, like, the library's overdrive thing on my phone one night when I was sitting next to a stack of books that needed to be read and deciding I didn't want to read any of them. And so I downloaded The Hollow Kingdom and read that and loved it this time. I don't know what it was that bothered me. I really don't know. I liked everything about it, for the most part. I mean, not that it's, you know, an unflawed book, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. It didn't have those spots that I was like, yeah, really. I loved the characters, and I want more, so I am pretty sure next time I do any kind of book splurge book shopping, I will be buying the entire Hollow Kingdom trilogy because I want to read the rest and I want to own the Hollow Kingdom. I don't know what I was mad at. It had to have just been a bitch misty day because it's a good book and I like it. I like goblins. I mentioned the other day that I like trolls. I also like goblins. I don't know that those are the things you're supposed to like, but I do. So, moving on. When I was done with that, I once again didn't want to read any of the things that I needed to read. I mean, I did. They sounded good, and I don't know, I was just stalling. I was in a weird mood, and I wanted something completely mindless, I think. Something that I didn't have to invest, I wasn't going to review. It was just going to be what it was. So, again, with the rereads, I picked up Escorted by Claire Kent, which I read last year in January on the recommendation of Allison, and it is pretty smexy. It is erotica. It was just really good though. The character development was great and I really enjoyed them and there was a good sense of humor. And I found myself thinking about those characters again and I thought, I'm gonna sit down and read it again. Which I did. And when I was done with that, I thought, you know what? I'm gonna see what else Claire Kent has out there. So then I read Nameless, which I didn't like as much, but I still did like. And when I was done with that, I realized that the author who writes as Claire Kent also writes as Noelle Adams, I think the name is, and I was like, well, maybe I should see if the writing is very different as Noelle. Maybe I'll like those too. So I got a couple more books. They were under the Noelle Adams pseudonym, and I read those too. And I didn't like those nearly as much. I definitely liked the Claire Kent stuff better. The characters just didn't seem as developed, and the stories didn't seem as developed. I think they were a lot briefer, which maybe is the difference between, you know, her two pseudonyms. Maybe one she develops more, and one are supposed to be just these quick stories. I don't know. But even though I didn't like them as much, I still really liked them. I'm not going to talk about them all individually. They won't be reviewed, but basically they're all very readable and engaging. They all have major flaws that get under my skin, but not enough to not make me like the stories. Mostly though, I love the characters. I think she really has a way with characters that you understand and connect to immediately, and like how they understand and connect to each other and the struggles in getting there. They're all very engaging, they're all very quick, they're all very steamy, so not for the faint of heart. They're all just enjoyable. So they're linked below. You can see the full embarrassing list of them and check them out if you'd like. But if you are into those type of stories, I would say of the four, read Escorted. I thought it was really strong. It's kind of a somewhat silly premise, but that really works. She pulled it off really well, and the characters remained with me over a year later and made me want to reread it, which I generally wouldn't do. So that happened, and that took up like a chunk of my February when I should have been reading other things. And when I was done, it was like a struggle for me to not just keep reading her. It's like candy. She is like really bad candy or greasy potato chips where you're like, I am gonna put this bag down. I'm gonna put this bag down. I should put this bag down. Why is this bag of chips empty? You just keep going on to the next. So if that's your thing, try out Claire Kent. But I finally stopped myself. I said enough is enough. I moved back on to what I should have been reading the entire time and picked up the Stack of 5 winner for the month, which was Beauty by Nancy Olin. This is a retelling of Snow White, and it's set in a boarding school, and it feels somewhat historical but also somewhat futuristic. I don't really know. It's just kind of an alternate universe, I guess. Something. I don't know. It's a fantasy world. It's very thin and very much about the evil queen's obsession with beauty, very much to the detriment of the story. Hate to say it. Nancy is a very nice person, and I was intrigued by the story, but this got a thumbs down and a baffled WTF from me. It could have been really intriguing. The whole take on beauty and the obsession with it to the exclusion of everything else, the relationship between the mother and daughter, the very warped, almost codependent relationship that the daughter has on the mom, and the fearful relationship that the mother has with her daughter. Okay guys, my camera died and I don't entirely remember where I left off, so hopefully I remember everything I was gonna say. I was talking about beauty, and I think I was in the middle of a rant when the camera died, but basically it had the potential to really go some interesting places and be powerful, and instead it just came off really underdeveloped. There were just a lot of weird choices. It felt sort of juvenile, and nothing was really explored, lacking in development and lacking in believability, I guess, in some ways. I don't know, I was just really let down by this, and I found the whole thing kind of bizarre. I will do a video review on this one since it was the Stack of 5 winner, and I will get more into it then, but sadly, thumbs down. Next up, I read the February Wednesday YA winner, which blog readers voted on, and the winner was Unspoken by Sarah Reese Brennan, which again, thumbs down. I was really expecting to like this, and I liked it a lot in the beginning. It was very funny and quirky, and I was game, and it just took a turn for no. The Twitter discussion for the month ended up turning into a bit of a rant, not just on my part, but I think on just about everybody's part. None of us were very pleased with how the book turned out. There are those people that love it. There were plenty of people that love it, which is why I was so surprised that I did not love it. The things that bothered us didn't bother everybody, so maybe they won't bother you, but I was really disappointed in this. I did a sort of a roundup of the book where I posted and sort of linked everything that we talked about in the Twitter chat, so you can see quite how ranty and disappointed we were during that chat, and me especially. I'll leave the link to that below, but Basically, the characters were very much caricatures. They were very cardboard. They were very flat. I didn't love the treatment of some of the characters, mainly the female ones. There were a lot of things that didn't gel for me, and it had potential, and I liked the quirkiness, and it just went downhill. I would consider reading the second book. Hopefully this was a fluke and I will still like Sarah's writing, because I do own another book by her and have one on the way that was written by her and one other author. I don't want them to just be kind of wasted space on my shelf, but this one kind of made me sad because I really wanted to like it and I did not. But hopefully I will like March's Wednesday Way book, which is The Darkest Minds by Alexandra Bracken. And if you want to come read it with us, you are more than welcome. Everybody is welcome to join in whatever way you want at any time. The Twitter chat about the book will be the second to last Wednesday of the month at 8:30 Eastern. And if you're outside of America, that might not mean much to you, but you can stop by, check the hashtag Wednesday Way and Twitter, and tweet at us, me and Liz of Consumed by Books, and share your thoughts on The Darkest Minds. I've started reading it. So far I like it. But that is March, and we're still talking about February, so on to the last book I read this month, which was Plus One by Elizabeth Fama. This isn't what the cover looks like. The final cover is very pretty. This is sort of an alternate timeline dystopia. The reasoning behind it is all a little dubious. It takes a huge willing suspension of disbelief, I'm not gonna lie. But for whatever reason, if you go with it, people are divided into day or night, and it's very strictly regulated, and that's the dystopia. That's the setup for this. Even though it does require that huge willing suspension of disbelief, this was a huge thumbs up for me. I really liked it. I really liked the characters. I thought they felt very authentic and engaging, and I loved Soul's determination and her love of the people in her life and how quickly and fiercely she loves. Even though there are elements of insta-love, it's kind of, there's a backstory that makes it not so much insta-love. Again, it takes some willing suspension if you're not an insta-love person, and I'm not, but it worked for me, so that does say something. And I just really liked the interaction between the two main characters. I liked their chemistry. I like the world that's being set up. I like the questions that come into play, but mostly I just really like the style and the tone and the narration of Soul, the main character. It won't work for everyone because not everyone will be willing to suspend their disbelief and take the leaps and just go with it, but if you are, I found this really, really enjoyable. It was a nice way to end February. It was a nice note to end the month on, especially after the weirdness that had come before it. So there you have it. That is what I read in February. And it was a very mixed bag, and I am dreadfully behind now because I didn't do what I was supposed to do for pretty much the entire month. But that's all for now. Let me know what you think in the comments of the books I read and whether you agree or disagree or want to read them. That's all for now. As always, thanks for watching and happy reading. And I love Macmillan for publishing it and Ksenius for sending Ksenias? No, I don't know.